They had recently gone through their Holyrood elections. They had lost a few MSPs and they were struggling to get their plans for a second referendum off the ground. And we know that we don't know exactly what it was spent on, and there also, of course, relates to questions about where the money for the second referendum ended up going. And all of these, I assume, will form part of the police investigation. But I think a very ominous line in that Police Scotland statement is that officers are conducting searches at a number of properties, and so I think that one of the big questions of the coming days is whether Nicola Sturgeon herself will be further embroiled in this.
Well, you mentioned those searches tomorrow. I think we may have a still of Police Scotland conducting one of those visits to premises. Anytime now, it's going to pop up on the screen here. I think that £107,000 loan tomorrow, incidentally, all that was said about it by the party at the time was that it was for working capital purposes. There we go. That is the scene. Regular viewers will recognise that looks very much like the residential property outside which Nicola Sturgeon was interviewed fairly recently when she stepped down as First Minister. So that is a shot from those premises. Tomorrow, you were talking just now about the new First Minister, Humza Yousaf. I mean, he was obviously presented during the leadership campaign as being the continuity candidate, but I guess this does potentially give him the opportunity for a sort of root and branch shake-up of SNP headquarters, should he so wish.
I think he'll be under pressure to do that. Yes, he was very much seen as an ally of Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon, we must add, did welcome her husband's resignation on the 18th of March, saying he'd obviously taken responsibility for the issues with the membership. But Humza Yousaf said in the summer that he regarded Peter Murrell as an election winner, someone who'd been crucial to the SNP machine as it was so electorally successful in Scotland. I think it will be up to him now to bring the greater transparency that he talked about when he became First Minister, and it's been a time of extraordinary turmoil for the SNP over the last few weeks. I think he's got many challenges coming up, not least a difficult by-election on the horizon in West Hamilton, but he's also now got the challenge of trying to overhaul some of the processes, and that work may have to wait now until the police conclude their inquiries and we see whether anyone else beyond Mr. Murrell is implicated in this investigation.
Tomorrow, are you surprised that the timing of this particular development? I mean, it's been well known that people have been looking into the funding of the SNP for quite a while now.
It is well known, and the investigation, yes, you're right, has been going on for a couple of years now, but it's still been a very dramatic development this morning. I don't think we were expecting that Peter Murrell has been taken into custody, and I don't think anyone's making any claims about the timing of it at the moment, but certainly if you just look at how things have changed in Scottish politics over the last few weeks, we had the extremely surprising resignation of Nicola Sturgeon in February. We've had this leadership contest in which really the gloves came off. You know, the SNP had been so disciplined over the years in holding it together despite their differences. We saw a lot of that burst out into the open in the leadership contest. We now have the party's most senior backroom figure, Peter Murrell, someone who was all over the party's organisation and financing. He is now being questioned by detectives, and there will be a very big job to do to rebuild trust in the SNP, and I think some of those, like Joanna Cherry, who you mentioned, who had been critical of some of the internal arrangements that had not been listened to, I think they may now start to speak out publicly as well. And of course, the Scottish Conservatives and Labour, who are both hoping to win seats in Scotland at the next election, will probably be rubbing their hands at this development. So in the history of the SNP, the last few months has been probably the biggest low point since they really started to build up support in Scotland well over 15 years ago.
Okay, Tamara, thanks for that. We will, of course, keep you abreast of any new information we get on this breaking news story, the arrest of Nicola Sturgeon's husband, Peter Murrell, by Police Scotland this morning with regards to an investigation into the finances of the Scottish National Party. Before we crack on with the business news, we're just going to cross over to Warsaw, where President Zelensky of Ukraine is being welcomed on his first visit to Poland since the Russian invasion. Our Europe correspondent, Siobhan Robbins, is on the scene. Siobhan, what's happening right now?
Well, we have seen President Zelensky arriving in Poland in the last few hours. He's now gone to the presidential palace where he's meeting the Polish president. You can see that they're giving him this big ceremonial welcome. He's been walking in front of the troops. The First Lady's both there as well. You can see in the pictures watching as the band goes past. And this is part of a first official visit to Poland by President Zelensky. Of course, a very important partner for the Ukrainians since this invasion of Ukraine. Poland has been extremely vocal in their support for Ukraine, not just in terms of calling on other allies to send weapons and sending weapons themselves, but also in welcoming Ukrainians who have left because of the war. They've taken in more than 1 million Ukrainian refugees. So part of the reason for this visit is for President Zelensky to say thank you and also to talk about going forward. So no doubt other things that they'll discuss on the agenda, of course, is Finland joining NATO. They'll probably also be talking about weapons going forward. We know that President Zelensky still wants more arms, different types of arms to be sent, more different types of fighter jets to be sent. So they'll be discussing that, I expect. But there are more tricky issues on the agenda as well. This morning, I understand that local reports are saying that the agricultural minister here has resigned, and that's because of a big problem that's facing Polish farmers to do with Ukrainian grain. It's been flooding across the border here, pushing down prices. That's led to a lot of problems for Polish farmers, so they're trying to organise some sort of deal about that. We've got the band just going past us now as the presidents head inside for a hefty day of talks, then meeting with the Prime Minister, and then this evening a big meeting again with both Polish people who've helped Ukrainians and also local Ukrainians who've moved here.
Okay, thanks, Siobhan. More breaking news, and in the last hour, figures have been published suggesting that the UK services sector continued to grow last month. The Purchasing Managers Index survey data published by S&P Global, in which anything above 50 represents growth and anything below that a contraction, came in at 52.9 for March. That was down from 53.5 in February, but still consistent with growth. Well, S&P Global said the figures were supported by the fastest increase in new order volumes for a year, which reflected greater confidence among clients in both domestic and international markets. And we're going to stay with that theme now because more than half of UK firms, some 52%, believe their turnover will rise over the next 12 months. That's the good news. The bad news is that just 1 in 3 firms have seen their turnover increase during the first 3 months of this year, while a majority see no improvement in business conditions. Well, those are the main findings in the latest quarterly economic survey from the British Chambers of Commerce, whose Director General Siobhan Haviland joins me now. Siobhan, welcome to you. I mean, on the whole, there appears to be a bit more optimism around.
Yeah, it's nice to see a bit of an uplift in confidence there, Ian, in this quarter. Remember, we are coming from last year where it was particularly difficult, political instability, spiralling energy costs, and of course, talk of a recession at the end of last year. So the beginning of this year is definitely seeing more positive news. That confidence is good. We are yet to see that sort of filter through to sales or an uplift in investment, and we are still hearing from businesses that the trouble getting people in labour and the energy bills are a challenge, but good to see some increase in confidence.
Yeah, I mean, when you ask members about an increase in turnover, are we talking here about a genuine rise in sales volumes or activity, or just numbers that have been flattered by a bit of inflation?
So, I mean, that turnover number is looking ahead, so they're looking ahead in a positive way. They're definitely telling us that there is some positive demand. I was in Huddersfield and Worcester last week talking to business leaders, and they talk about that positive increase in demand, but they then go quite quickly back to, but I'm really struggling to find the people to fulfill those orders, and I'm still worried about energy, because remember, this month we are seeing a massive reduction in energy support.
Well, quite. I mean, are you surprised that the government didn't do more in the recent budget on that front?
We really wanted to see more on that front. We're seeing an 85% reduction in support for energy bills for businesses, whereas of course consumers, got another 3 months, which is very good. But energy bills, those are two sides of the same coin, effectively. And a lot of smaller businesses buy energy like consumers do. So government saying energy prices are coming down. Hopefully we will see that being passed through to businesses, because that's the other concern.
Well, quite. I mean, energy prices aren't coming down since the weekend OPEC's production cut. I mean, the price of Brent crude has gone up by about nearly 9-10% again.
Yeah, and you remember we're coming from a point of businesses telling us that their energy bills have gone up 200-300%. I mean, they're eye-watering numbers, and that is just sucking cash out of their bank balances, and that is why businesses aren't investing. They're holding on to the cash because they're still worried about their energy bills, and other tax rises that we're seeing coming in this month.
One encouraging thing in the survey, though, is that more than 2/5 of companies expect profits to rise this year.
Yeah, and that's related to obviously that confidence. I think they're hoping energy prices are going to come at least move downwards. Inflation's heading in the right direction. The first time out of last 8 quarters, inflation's concerns about inflation have reduced, so that's a good thing. We're seeing that coming down. Well, we hope to see that coming down as the year goes on, so those are optimistic.
Which of the sectors where you're seeing most optimism among members right now? I presume there's a real diversity of opinion.
Yeah, there really is. I mean, the sectors suffering the most are still hospitality and retail. Of course, this quarter is one of their hardest quarters in terms of January and February sales, but they're also hugely more impacted by those energy bills and by the difficulty of getting people. If I talk to hospitality industry around the country, none of them are working at 100% service levels. Hotels are closing floors, restaurants are reducing their hours. It's still really hard, and that of course is also pushing up wages.
You talked a lot just now about the labour market and labour shortages. Do you get any sort of inkling that things are starting to improve? I mean, we hear that some over 50s in particular are now starting to return to the labour market.
So we've still got 1.1 million open roles in this country. Yes, there was some positive news in the budget from the Chancellor about childcare, but that doesn't kick in until next April. What we really want to see is the government do more on shortage occupation lists, and this is the way they can bring short-term labour into the market to ease the problems as we grow, hopefully, out of this situation.
All right, Siobhan, got to leave it there. Great to see you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Some other business news stories for you now, and the telecoms regulator Ofcom is to ask the Competition and Markets Authority to open an investigation into the UK's market in cloud services. Ofcom said a market study it had carried out had provisionally identified features and practices that make it more difficult for customers to switch and use multiple cloud suppliers. It said it was particularly concerned about the practices of Amazon and Microsoft because of their market position, where the pair are estimated to have a combined market share of between 60 to 70%, with Google, their nearest competitor, back on between 5 to 10% of the market. The cooperative group has maintained annual profits despite difficulties in its insurance arm. Underlying operating profit for 2022 came in at £100 million. That was unchanged from 2021, with sales in its food and wholesaling, funeral care and legal services divisions all increasing. Income in its insurance business, however, fell due to a contraction in the motor insurance market. Well, Alan Layton, the co-op's chairman, said it was an encouraging performance given the inflationary challenges facing most consumer-facing businesses. The Co-op's headline pre-tax profits, by the way, surged from £57 million to £247 million. That was following the sale of its petrol forecourt business in October last year. The gaming group Entain is buying the Israeli sports results application 365 Scores for £120 million. Entain, which owns the bookmakers Ladbrokes and Coral, as well as other betting and gaming brands including Sporting Bet and Gala Bingo, said the acquisition would provide customers with a broader offering of interactive content and experiences. Well, 365 Scores, which was founded by 4 former comrades from the Israeli Armed Forces, provides scores and sports information, editorial and social content, and sports-focused free-to-play games to more than 15 million active users. And the drugs giant AstraZeneca said this morning that clinical trials involving a combination of 2 of its cancer treatments had proved effective in treating advanced high-grade epithelial ovarian cancer. Well, the company said that combining Lynparza, which is an existing ovarian cancer treatment, and Imfinzi, which is a treatment for bladder cancer, had shown statistically significant and clinically meaningful improvement in progression-free survival rates when patients had also received chemotherapy and an existing treatment. Now, new car sales rose in March for the 8th consecutive month, while it was the biggest ever month for battery electric car registrations. The monthly new car registration figures from the Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders revealed that new registrations were up 18.2% on March last year. It said this was partly due to a surge in deliveries for large fleets, which accounted for nearly 49% of new registrations during the month. Well, joining me now is Mike Hawes. He's the Chief Executive of the SMMT. Mike, good to see you this morning. I mean, March is always a big month because it's a new plate month, but even so, this is a pretty strong showing.
It is. I mean, we were pleasantly surprised at just how strong it is. I mean, we have been growing, as you said, for a number of months, but March is a critical month. It kind of sets the tone for the year. We do have to put it into perspective, so 18% growth, I mean, is fantastic given the current economic conditions, but we're still about 37% below the pre-pandemic levels, so it shows just how far we've got to get back towards recovery.
So what's been driving this? Is it the fact that March is a big new plate month? Is there more choice for consumers? Are there more products coming onto the market?
It's all of the above, but I think the biggest issue is, given we've had such a constrained supply, production, there's been a shortage of semiconductors and other supply chain parts for 2 or 3 years now, predominantly due to the pandemic. That is gradually beginning to ease, and so that's helping put more product into the market, as well as the investments that you mentioned coming from from manufacturers, especially in electric vehicles. We're able to get more through into the customers' hands, especially in the fleets.
Well, that's a very moot point, because obviously last week the government has mandated the industry with selling a certain proportion of electric vehicles as part of overall sales. Is the industry going to hit next year's targets? 22%, I think.
We have to hit it. We've seen the consultation announced last week. There's regulation coming in the end of the year. The government's been very clear that that's the trajectory that it wants to see from the UK. The challenge, obviously, is that this is a really short time frame to announce a consultation on the regulations to start 9 months later. It gives manufacturers very little time to plan their products. What we are seeing in terms of demand for electric vehicles is, whilst the numbers are going up, the market share is a bit static at the moment. So we need to overcome some of the challenges of that. Part of that's affordability, but the biggest issue is charging infrastructure, people's reticence to make the transition if you can't be sure we're going to charge.
Well, absolutely. And what about the inventory, though? I mean, is the inventory going to be there this time next year to hit that target?
It's easy. It depends just how big the market is. And as I said, we expect the market to grow over the next couple of years because we're in a long period of recovery, considering how wretched the last 3 years were. So we're beginning to see an easing of that supply. But the target for next year will be 22% by brand of EVs. For the industry across the March just gone, it was 16.2%.
Yeah, that's really difficult for the likes of Jaguar Land Rover, for example, isn't it? Which of course is still very heavily geared to diesel.
There's some flexibilities that's been proposed, which allows certain manufacturers, if they can see they've got the launches coming in the next couple of years, they can effectively sort of borrow against that, because when these companies make that shift, they'll make it quickly, and they'll make it in a big way. So every industry, every brand is heading towards that same destination, just on slightly different trajectories.
And looking out longer term, obviously the EU has just watered down the targets by which the internal combustion engine is going to be phased out. The UK government's sticking to it, and ours were already more ambitious than the EU. Mistake?
I think the government's been very clear, it's been zero means zero. But I think what we need to be looking at is certain applications where electrification might not in the immediate term lend itself so readily. A lot of the focus is on cars and vans, and they can electrify. But when you're thinking about heavy goods vehicles, coaches, for instance, electrification may not readily work for them. So having an more open-minded approach to some of these other technologies, which can still be zero emission tailpipe, can certainly open up affordable transition to net zero, because if you're going to deliver net zero, you have to decarbonise road transport.
In the meantime, looking at back to these latest figures, these monthly figures, I mean, in terms of popularity among sales types, it's still the Super Mini.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, this is one of the issues for the industry, because that is still the biggest selling segment. It's one of the more affordable segments, but of course, affordability and trying to make that shift towards electrification, which is a more expensive technology at the moment, poses real challenges for the industry. How do you make affordable vehicles which are electric and in demand by consumers? It's a conundrum, but the level of investment is massive to try and overcome that.
I take it that is not necessarily the Super Minis, and not necessarily what the big fleet buyers are going for right now.
They buy a mixture, and that's one of the more encouraging things to see over the past month or two, is that, you know, because of that releasing of supply, you're able to fulfil some of those demands. There is still a long order bank, but you know, what the great thing about the market is that diversity and increasingly availability of electric cars in all segments of the market.
Oh my God, I'll leave it there. Good to see you this morning. Thank you. We're going to go back now to the breaking news that we brought you at the top of the hour, which is that the former Scottish National Party Chief Executive Peter Murrell is understood to have been arrested by Police Scotland over an investigation into the party's finances. Peter Murrell is, of course, the husband of Nicola Sturgeon, the former First Minister of Scotland. Our political correspondent Tamara Cohen is in Westminster. Tamara, what have you learned in the last 20 minutes or so?
Well, Ian, a pretty dramatic development this morning, as Peter Murrell, we heard, had been arrested by detectives as part of this investigation into the finances and funding of the Scottish National Party. We've seen this picture, which is police tape outside the home that Murrell shares with Nicola Sturgeon. We know that the police are raiding a number of addresses, and this appears to be one of them. So I think the big question over the coming days will be whether Sturgeon herself is dragged into this in any way. What this is all about, it dates back to the missing £600,000. This was a drive by the SNP to raise funds for a second independence referendum. It began back in 2017. They raised £667,000 from activists over the years, and the complaint made to police was that this money had gone missing. They could not account for very much of it, to the point that a couple of years ago the SNP were in such financial difficulty that Peter Murrell, who has been chief executive of the SNP for more than 20 years, actually gave them a personal loan of £100,000, and there were questions about that and why it was not declared properly. So all of this has been looked into by the police, and we understand that the police did actually speak to other senior officials in the SNP in the last week or two, but now Mr Murrell has been arrested and is being questioned over what happened there. So he and Nicola Sturgeon, very much the power couple of the SNP over the years. He was also seen as key to the SNP's election success, but now what he was doing behind the scenes very much being called into question.
Tomorrow we're getting reaction now from some of the other political parties in Scotland. I gather the Scottish Labour Party have called this a deeply disturbing development.
Yes, that's right. I've just heard actually from Ian Murray, who's the Labour's shadow Scottish Secretary, and he said this is a deeply concerning development and the Police Scotland investigation must be allowed to proceed without interference. Mr Murray told me for too long a culture of secrecy and cover-up has been allowed to fester at the heart of the SNP. We need the new First Minister Humza Yousaf and the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon to urgently state what they knew and when. Now, you remember that Nicola Sturgeon was asked at this press conference when she made the shock decision to resign as First Minister in February. She was asked what she knew about this £600,000, and she said she just wanted the police to do their work. She was asked in an interview by Beth Rigby last month whether the police had spoken to her in that part of their investigation, and she said no, they hadn't. But the police certainly seem to be at the property now where Sturgeon and Murrell live, and he's being questioned by detectives this morning. So I'm sure we'll have opposition parties rubbing their hands about this latest development, and it comes after concerns had been expressed even within the SNP ranks about the fact that there had been such dominance over the party by this pair. You had Joanna Cherry, SNP MP. She said a couple of years ago when this police investigation began that Peter Murrell should not continue as chief executive. And in fact, when the police investigation was first launched back in 2021, there were quite a few resignations, including of the party's treasurer, who said that he'd not been given enough information to do his job. So it may well be that quite a lot ends up coming out in the coming months about who knew what about the SNP's finances. And after a period in which Nicola Sturgeon was so dominant and so incredibly popular as SNP First Minister, this could be a fall from grace for both of them.
Okay, Tamara, thanks for that. Well, the oil price has continued to consolidate its gains since Sunday's price production cut by the OPEC Plus grouping. But as you can see, in the last 20 minutes, price has gone negative. Barrel of Brent crude currently changing hands at $84.81 a barrel. That's a little under a sixth of 1% lower on the session. On the equity markets, last night's sell-off on Wall Street was followed by a lackluster session in the Asia-Pacific region. Sydney was unchanged. Shanghai finished higher. Tokyo and Hong Kong both finished low. Mumbai, which isn't on the screen, finished ahead by nearly 1% though. That was on some strong company results. But in Europe, markets have been largely in negative territory this morning. There you go, that's the current picture. Only the IBEX in Madrid in positive territory. Talking points this morning on continental Europe include Sodexo, the French catering and food services giant. Its shares up 9% in Paris on news it's spinning off one of its subsidiaries. Well, here in London, the FTSE 100 has been in positive territory. That remains the case. It's up nearly a quarter of 1%, led by some utility and healthcare stocks. The leading gainer in the FTSE this morning is United Utilities. That's on broker comment. The share's nearly 3% to the good there. While the gold miner Endeavour Mining, its shares are also ahead. That's after the gold price hit its highest level since March last year. Outside the FTSE, well, we were talking car registrations earlier on. The motor dealer Lookers is ahead by some 2% on news that its annual profits are going to come in ahead of expectations. While Direct Line, which has been pretty bombed out lately, its shares up 4% from the, look at that, nearly 6% now. That's from comment from the analysts at Citigroup. They've moved from sellers to buyers this morning. On the downside, the water and climate solutions group Genuit is down nearly 3% on the unexpected resignation of its chief operating officer. Meanwhile, on the foreign exchange markets, well, the big talking point today has been the New Zealand dollar, which has jumped following a bigger interest rate rise overnight than expected from the Reserve Bank of New Zealand. The pound, which yesterday hit a 10-month high against the US dollar, currently off by just over 1% against both the dollar and the euro. The single currency, meanwhile, unchanged against the greenback. Well, joining me this morning is the head of investment at Interactive Investor, Victoria Scholar. Victoria, good to see you this morning. Let's start with Entain. I mentioned them earlier in the programme, the owner of Ladbrokes and Coral. Quite a big acquisition from them this morning.
Yeah, that's right. It's acquiring sports media business 365 Scores for its entire share capital for a consideration of $150 million with a payment of $10 million.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day. But it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Starr, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Tune in to On Point here on Star Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820, or you can visit our website www.welllamb.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamb@gmail.com. Well Lamb Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
The best radio show.
All around the world. In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio, Radio UK.
Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Smile, though your heart is aching. Smile, even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie and you are listening to Star Radio UK and The Morning Show.
This is Starr Radio. This is
UK.
Starr Radio
UK.
This is Starr Radio
UK.
Welcome.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. Starr Radio. Radio for the people, by the people.
Love for you runs deep. All of you makes my heart beat. That's what makes you great. You hold the world in your hands. The hand that made me who I am.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth, and those of you on other planets as well. We want to salute each and every one of you, and once again welcome you to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Today is the 5th of April, the year 2023, with a time now 10:43 from the hearts of London. I remain yours sincerely, your one and only.
This is the morning show with Archie.
Let me say good morning to my team working behind the scenes this morning, Mr. Frank Davis, Mr. Olayomi Koiki. Good morning to you, gentlemen, and my able producer, Mr. Francis Guy. Also, let me say good morning to Felix all the way in Aberdeen, Mr. Kojo D in South London, Mr. Dan Tebri and the family. I salute each and every one of you. And let me say good morning to Sam Sudin. Olakunle, good morning to you. Anthony Adedeji, Bishop Adeshina, Pastor Momo.
Love for you runs.
Pastor Emmanuel Chidi, and all you wonderful people who listen to us across the globe. If I want to count you all, name you all, my goodness, I'll not be able to do so. I think I'll have to do that a whole week. But wherever you all are, the thousands and the millions of you who listen to us on all the various platforms, we salute you. And once again, I say welcome to the Wednesday edition of the morning show. Now, as we all know, the time now 10:44, but as you all know, the Wednesday edition of the morning show finishes at 12 o'clock. But I'm going to bring you the quotes for the day, the weather forecast, the travel updates. Then move on to look at some of the stories making the rounds across the globe. I mean, two big stories making the rounds now. And then we'll move on from there to have a look at details at some of the stories making the rounds in Nigeria. We'll continue from there to look at some of the other stories making the rounds also in other parts of the world. Then at 12 o'clock, we'll bring the curtains down for the end of the program. At 11:30, I'll be opening the lines for you to add your voice to the discussions if need be. You have anything that you want to say? Why not? You can bring it on. So in the gist, that's what's going to happen this morning. So wherever you are, get your loins. If you are sitting, sit very comfortably. You are standing, hold on to something, and let us make this journey a very sweet and a good one. Though it gets bumpy sometimes, but I promise you one thing for sure. I'm going to make sure that you arrive at your destination in peace. Destination infotainment. So the quote for the day says, indeed, no one wants to be a failure, but you become a failure by avoiding what successful people do on a daily basis. So assuming you have to go to work and you decide, let me sleep a bit, and you want to be successful, it's not because of ill health, but you just want to be lazing about, just trying to lie down to sleep, then my goodness, you're not going to be going very far. Okie dokie do. Now, for all our Niger listeners, we don't have Mr. Olayomi live this evening for Niger Voices, one of the school holidays, so he has to have some time off for that, so that we can see to the family as well. We know we got families, you know. So when you see us walking our kids to the school and stuff like that, you know that, yeah, and doing all those things. But we have to make sure that we deliver on both sides. So just bear with us when during holidays we do so. And again, announcing to you, Monday there will not be a live program. Friday there will not be a live program. Monday there will not be a live program. But we will all be back on Tuesday. Okay. So now let's move on straight to the weather front. Let me tell you what is happening on the weather front this morning. For those of you in London and southeast of England, this is how the weather is going to be for you. In the afternoon, thicker cloud will build. Patchy spells of rain will soon follow in, and the rest of the day will be cloudy and damp. Tonight will continue cloudy and wet as further spells of rain move in from the west towards dawn. The rain will start to ease away, but it will remain cloudy a milder night than last. Top temperature 13 degrees and the lowest 8 degrees. Pollen level is going to be high, UV level moderate, and pollution low. Sunset 1940 and the sunrise for tomorrow morning is 0628 hours. And that brings us to the end of the weather forecast. Let me take you straight to the travel updates after this short commercial break. Stay tuned. Don't touch the dial. Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, so keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads. I'm giving up getting. I promise I'll be on the Star Radio travel update that comes to you every weekday from 10:40. It's now 10:48. And what is happening on travel this morning? Now on the underground this morning, good service throughout. Yes. But we have severe delays on the DLR. And the London tram link has got minor delays between Wimbledon and Elmes and due to a shortage of trams. Now on the DLR, severe delays between Bank and Lewisham while they fix an electrical fault at Morchut. Good service on the rest of the line. London Overground, good service there as well. On the major roads in London, A24, A4 and Central London Red routes have all got closures. The other side, A1 and A40 has also got serious delays. The rest have got no exceptional delays, so you will zoom through them, but like no man's business. Now, River Bus, good service there. London Cable Car, good service there. National Rail. Final segment of the travel updates. Keep your eyes on the roads. Avanti West Coast, East Midlands Railways, Great Western Railway, Greater Anglia, South Western Railway, and Southern have all got minor delays. Transport for Wales have got special service, so check them all before you leave. That aside, all the others, good service there. And as I will say once again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep those eyes on the roads.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clement, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Star Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Welcome back to the program. It is Star Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, bringing the time now to exactly 9 minutes to the top of the hour, the Wednesday edition of the morning show. So we've got no time to spare. We have to zoom through it like no man's business. So now let's move on. Global Trotting. So what is happening from across the globe today? Well, let me start it from here in London, where breaking news came in this morning. A few about an hour ago. Sturgeon's husband has been arrested in S&P Finance probe. Is a story making the round. The former First Minister's husband, Peter Morrell, is taken into police custody. We're going to be telling you more about that story as well. And then yesterday as well, the one and only Donald Trump, was charged. And, well, he actually denied it. He pleaded not guilty. But he's saying that after that, when he flew to his Mar-a-Lago residence in Florida, he went on to say, U.S. is going to hell, says Trump, after being charged. The former president is accused of falsifying business records relating to a hush money payment. Well, he thinks that, it is all a political ploy to actually get him out of the race for the 2024 presidential elections. Well, what do you think about all that? How do you see him? Do you like his way of doing things? That look, I am here. I saw some of his supporters saying that they know that no one is above the law, but no one is beneath the law. So did he wrong? If it was you, would you be charged in prison? I remember back in the day. Well, I don't want to talk about those cases, but I wasn't very, very sure. A few of the black celebrities who have gone through Wesley Snipes, you remember his life was ruined. He wasn't a political advocate. He was just a mere black film actor. And then, well, they said, oh, he didn't do that. He didn't do that. I remember he being incarcerated. We remember Mike Tyson, because somebody also claimed rape or something. I've forgotten what. Yes, I think about that. And then he was also incarcerated. We've had Cosby, who was also incarcerated. We have what do you call him? R&B star. What do you call him? One of my favorite stars, you know. But now he's also been R. Kelly, who's also being. So if you did that, you managed to pay your way out to shut the person or the individual and something like that, and now they take you to court. You know, his supporters are saying that, well, we like him as it is. If he's whatever, he slept with 2,000 women, or he paid his way, we still like him. So with everything that is happening, the question is he increasing his support, or is he just strengthening his base? What about that? And the wedge or the gouge that has come once again into the U.S. politics or the United States as a whole. Do you think we're going to be seeing any pretty soon or anytime soon it coming together where they are all living peaceably, or what are we going to be seeing? He is a divider, and he has continued to be. But well, we'll be coming to all that in a moment. Wherever you are, it is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's move on straight to some other stories making the rounds. Moving on straight, in Nigeria, I want people to be about obedient excesses. Soyinka says, okay, we'll be looking at that as well. And then hours after 10-year extension, Buhari sacks Naseni vice chairman. We're going to be looking at that as well. And then Adamawa governorship election, PDP urges REC to recuse himself. And then leaked audio, NCC denies allegation of tracking telephone conversation. So if they didn't do that, who actually got that information? That's the question on most people's lips. Who got that? Who tapped his phone? Or the phone of the bishop? Okay. And then Senate presidency, Izunazu lobbies Buhari, and then Enna appeals to Buhari NAS to investigate alleged ignoble role of the military in the Enugu State, Guba, and state elections. Nigeria's investment inflow dips to $468 million, lowest in 9 years. And NCAA molds a regulation amendment to advance aviation sector. Some of the stories making the rounds. Shocking discovery I made about Beavers. Agbakova is also saying, and Lai Mohammed treason allegation against Pitobi is malicious. Those are some of the stories making the rounds in Nigeria, and I promise you I'm going to be touching on that once we come to the updates from Nigeria. Now let's move on straight to some other stories there as well. On the African continent, AU peacekeepers convoy had been hit in an explosion by an explosion in Somalia. It's one of the stories making the rounds in Somalia today. In Ghana, on the African continent today. Now, request information from Attorney Generals regarding missing fisheries observer. That's one news network in Ghana. This around Joy News have requested information from Attorney General regarding missing fisheries observer. And the Oslo Chancery case, Norway Supreme Court dismisses appeal against Ghana. Okay, it's one of the stories. And the COVID-19, not the reason for Ghana's weak economy, Sami Jemfi is saying. Okay, but we know that they are saying that the ruling government or the ruling party are saying that, you know what? If you talk about the economy, use that as your campaign information, then you're going to lose the election. Now, opening a Gongo case to restart from scratch after 6 years, a new judge has ruled. Okay, who is it going to be in favor of? Is it going to be free and fair, as I've been saying all the time? We hope so. We hope so. You won't win 2024 election by lying about economy. People are struggling. What kind of lie can I lie? If I say that everything is fine, but meanwhile, the people know that in their pockets they are struggling. If I tell you the number of calls I receive in a day, pertaining to, can you help us? Can you do that? Can you do that? Then you will know that people are not enjoying themselves. All right. Voter registration, guarantor system, most abused, needs brainstorming. That's what the CDD is saying. So we'll be bringing you more on all those fronts in a moment. But wherever you are, stay tuned. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to exactly 10:58. All right. Let's take a musical break. We come back and then we continue with the show. And this one is from Mika Paris. And he says, take my hand, precious Lord. I think even there's been a time where we need to pray a prayer like that. I think it's this time. Enjoy it and I'll be with you. Stay tuned.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak.
This is Starr Radio UK.
In your car,
At work,
at home,
on your smartphone. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Lead me on
This is Starr Radio UK.
to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me home. When my way grows drear, precious Lord, linger near.
is Starr Radio, UK.
Only the best music.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email and phone number. That's it, you're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Welcome back to the program. It is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to exactly 5 minutes past the top of the hour. It is the Wednesday edition of the morning show. And it's now time for me to go to Nigeria to bring you some of the updates from Nigeria. Because of the half term, the Easter holidays, as I did say, there will not be Niger Voices today. But we promise you once the holidays over, we'll be bringing back to you as well. So once again, but Mr. Olami Koiki has sent me this information pertaining to the news that is making the rounds, and I'm going to be touching on that. The Nobel laureate, Professor Wole Soyinka, has said he won the presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Peter Obi, on excesses of his supporters, otherwise known as obedience. Now, Soyinka said that this in a statement titled Media Responsibility on Tuesday. Meanwhile, the elder statement said his recent interview with Channels Television was misrepresented, with his remarks rendered unrecognizable. The TV station had aired a 1.5-hour interview with Soyinka a week ago on Monday. He maintained that his rejection of fascism wasn't new, and that on 3 occasions he was able to send a message to Obi that if he lost the election, it will be his followers who lost it for him. He said that what I have read, at least thus far this morning, extracted from a 1.5 long interview conducted a week ago with Channels Television, brings once more to the fore the critical responsibility of the media in transmitting the spoken, even recorded word to the public. This is especially crucial in a time of civic uncertainty, when remarks are taken out of context, spliced into a new one, provided a sensational headline, distortion become stamped on public receptivity, and the central intent of one's remarks becomes completely unrecognizable. He goes further to say, I denounce the menacing utterances of vice presidential aspirants as unbecoming. It was a gladiatorial challenge directed at the judiciary and by implication the rest of the democratic polity. He goes on further to say, but what on earth has happened to even more urgent condemnation of the physical violence inflicted on those designated strangers in Lagos in the lead up to and during governorship elections? This prejudicial selectivity is a betrayal of trust, and I find it contemptuous of public deserving. My critique of incipient fascism in the movement remains grounded in indisputable evidence. Now, Soyinka stated that throughout the interview, he continued to stress that the final word had yet to be pronounced on the elections, that omissions renders the full message tendentious. Now, my rejection of fascism is nothing new. On 3 occasions, I was able to send a message to Peter Obi that if he lost the election, it will be his followers who lost it for him. It was depressing to watch his lieutenant, a crucially positioned voice of a movement that was breaking the mold, threatening the totality of social existence. Now, whatever ideological learning, is Donald Trump the ideal template for a beginning democracy in the nation? He said that if he also remained concerned by the alleged complaints by him of people not following instructions, if words are garbled on a recording, the speaker can be reached for clarification. Else, simply leave out the unclear section completely to avoid misrepresentation. After all, piecemeal transmission is legitimate proceeding as long as part is not presented as the whole. It goes on further to say, I am not a member of the Labour Party, so how can giving instructions become my role? Like a number of others, I have admittedly contributed to the making of this moment going back several years, and it is painful to have the followers of such a movement send it slithering backwards and down the fascistic slope, Soyinka said. Now, it is a sad thing, but as I did say earlier on, we had, was it yesterday? We had Lai Mohammed going to the States and making a statement pertaining to a statement that have come from the quarters of Peter Obi. Now, and then Lai Mohammed went on to accuse him of his statement being treasonable. Now, the story says there again, the CSO are saying that that statement, that Lai Mohammed treason allegation against Peter Obi, is malicious. Okay? Now, a policy think tank, the New African Center, has berated the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, over the allegation he leveled against Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. NAC described the outburst by the minister against Obi as baseless, malicious, and in a bad state. In a statement titled "Stop Blackmailing Peter Obi," signed by its Director of Public Affairs, Jenkins Udu, on Wednesday, Mohammed, while addressing some international media organizations and groups in Washington, D.C. on the 2023 general election, accused Obi of treason. He told his audience that Obi was promoting insurrection in Nigeria by inciting people to violence over the outcome of the February 25 presidential election. According to the public policy think tank, Mohammed is on a mission of blackmail and deceit, as there is no basis for the charge. NAC insists that Obi is known by one and all, including his accusers, as being innocent of the charge leveled against him. The center said it was perplexed by this level of disinformation being sold to the international community by a highly placed agent of the federal government. A think tank said it was irresponsible for a minister of the Federal Republic to mount the rostrum in foreign land for blackmail and disinformation. It accused the federal government and the ruling All Progressive Congress of working hard on the nefarious agenda to give Obi a bad name. The statement reads, in part, "We note with grave concern the campaign of calumny being mounted against Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the February 25 election. It is much more worrisome that the devious act is being sponsored and promoted by the All Progressive Congress and its ruling arm of the presidency. The objective, from what we can discern, is to give Obi a bad name and weaken his quest to retrieve the mandate which the Nigerian people freely gave him. Now, this indulgence by the Minister of Information and Culture, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, is sinister, cheap, malicious, and in bad taste. Now, Peter Obi, from what we know and can see, has never called out anybody to violence. Rather, he preaches peace and insists on the rule of law. That is why he has approached the courts over the outcome of the presidential election. Contrary to what Lai Mohammed said, Obi is only focused on the matter he has filed in court and nothing more. We are disappointed that APC, which claims to have won an election, is fixated about one man, Mr. Obi. This Obi phobia by the ruling APC casts shadow on illegitimacy on its claim to the presidency, they said. Indeed, it is unconscionable that the federal government of President Muhammadu Buhari has dragged itself into this bitter partnership. My apology, partisanship. Now, we expect an administration that is working towards handing over power in a few weeks' time to stay focused on its transition program rather than make itself a conspirator in chief in the drive to discredit Peter Obi. It is regrettable that Alhaji Mohammed, who has acquired notoriety for lies and fabrication, has chosen to export these toxic instruments to the international community. It goes further to say, we need to remind the mischiefs makers involved in the reprehensible act to know that it is Nigeria's reputation, not that of Peter Obi, that is being damaged. Obi's involvement in the 2023 presidential election was a watershed in Nigeria's electoral history. This fact is even very well known to the international media, which Alhaji Mohammed is trying to mislead as well. So what do you think has happened there? What do you think has happened there? Now, they are doing their best to, as we say here, give a dog a bad name, and then you have the chance to actually hang it. But what do you think? Well. Starr Radio UK. Now, the president has gone on to also fire the vice chairman of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, Professor Mohammed Sani Haruna, to vacate his office with immediate effect. In a circular issued on Tuesday by the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, President ordered Professor Haruna to immediately hand over his office to the next most senior officer in the organization. President Muhammadu Buhari has ordered the Executive Vice Chairman of the National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, Professor Mohammed Sani Haruna, to immediately hand over to the next. Okay, now this follows the reversal of the extension in office granted by the president from 2nd April 2023 to 2nd April 2025 due to the fact that the EVC had completed 2 tenures of 5 years each in the organization. The president appreciates the contribution of Professor Haruna in the development of the engineering infrastructure subsector of the economy and wishes success in his future endeavors. The circular signed by Willie Bassi, Director Information Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, read. It's quite an interesting one. Now, he gave the man an extension after his 2 tenures, so they are supposed to go for 2 tenures, and he said, okay, you can go up to up to April 2025. That extending it, call it by 2 years, then immediately come back to say no. So what actually has taken place? But I promise you one thing for sure, we will dig in deeper and we'll be bringing you more on that one. Okay, it is Starr Radio UK. Now, the Obi Oyadipo audio, NCC denies allegation of tracking telephone conversations. The Nigerian Communication Commission says it does not track nor leak mobile phone conversation of Nigerians. NCC, in a statement by Ruben Moka, its Director of Public Affairs, was responding to allegation that it monitors phone calls. Now, recently, on an audio clip alleged to be a conversation between Peter Obi, presidential candidate of the Labour Party, and David Oyedepo, the founder of Winners Chapel, had gone viral on the internet. In the audio, Obi allegedly asked Oyedepo to help him secure votes from Christians in the Southwest and Kwara during the presidential polls, describing the election as a religious war. While the presidential candidate has been criticized for promoting religious bigotry, Nigerians are now worried about the safety of their phone calls. Now, speaking on the matter, Muaka said NCC has been inundated with inquiries by the media on allegations of telephone tracking and leakage made against commission by some individuals and groups and in the social and alternative media. Okay, listen to Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. For the avoidance of doubt, the Commission denies these allegations and advises the public to disregard them, says the Nigeria Communications Commission. So how did this information come out? It might be that maybe somebody has tapped the lines of Peter Obi and or the bishop as well, Pastor Oyedepo. So I'm not sure what exactly took place, but there have been some tapping that took place. Well, a shocking discovery I made about beavers. Agbakoba is saying, a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Oliza Agbakoba, yesterday they talked about him. We did talk about his session that he was saying that there was a need for the petition, election petition, to judgment or the whole thing to go a full length before the handing over or the swearing in of Tinubu, if he is the one who is supposed to have legally won. Okay, now a former president of the Nigerian Bar Association, NBA, that is Oliza Agbakoba, has claimed he made a shocking revelation about the role of the bimodal voter accreditation system BVAS in the just concluded general election. So what did he see? Now Agbakoba also stated that the BVAS was a mere tool for voter accreditation, unlike how it was represented to Nigerians by the National Assembly in the enactment of the Electoral Act 2023. He disclosed this on Wednesday when he appeared on another TV station. The legal expert said the much hyped BVAS was not the magic as presented by the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's Yakubu Mahmood, before the election. He said, if you were to ask my view, and I have been in the election petition for a long time, this is one of the worst elections petition ever conducted. I say it for a number of reasons, and he enumerates them. First, if you listen to the chairman of the election management body, he made clear to us ad nauseam BVAS is the magic, and it turns out BVAS wasn't the magic. And I had the unfortunate displeasure of actually checking what exactly is BVAS in the law. And I was shocked that actually BVAS is not what we thought was represented to us by the National Assembly in the enactment of the Electoral Act 2023. To summarize, BVAS is more than a tool to accredit a voter. I suspect, without saying that the way to go, I suspect BVAS is not that important in the petition as we think, because the Osun Court of Appeal decision did not accept the argument by the appellant that the BVAS is the magic that determines overvoting. The court wanted to see a link to the original old ballot papers. In other words, the presidential polling units become important, and I was taken aback by that. I found out when I studied it that INEC has legal authority to present results either normal paper way or the BVAS, so there is no real change, it says. So coming your way from Starr Radio UK, it is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And let me put it this way. Okay, let me bring you this final one. Then I can say we've come to the end with the updates from Nigeria. But the National Agency for Prohibition of Trafficking in Person says it has arrested members of a sextortion syndicate in the Federal Capital Territory. Fatima Waziri Aziz, the agency director general, on Tuesday described the arrest as a breakthrough. She said the arrest followed intense surveillance and undercover operation in response to several complaints from victims and stakeholders. The DG added that the arrest was a record for the agency in its effort to address issues of sextortions, as the group was known for terrorism or terrorizing young girls and other residents of the FCT. Now, sextortion is a crime that occurs when someone threatens to distribute nudes and private videos of another person when that person refuses to grant them sexual favors or pay them money, Waziri Aziz said. And that's a sad thing. But I hope that they clamp down on them, and innocent people who are being, should I say, misled or being threatened this way, will have a bit of relief from that. But this is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. 11:25 the time. Starr Radio UK, the station, the morning show, the program. Now let's move on straight to some other stories making the rounds in other parts of the world. Now, AU peacekeepers convoy has been hit in an explosion in Somalia. It's one of the stories making the rounds. It's a convoy of African Union peacekeepers has been hit by the explosion in Somalia's capital Mogadishu on Monday. Reports suggest that at least 3 civilians who were in the vicinity lost their lives. According to a local security officer, the explosion caused by a landmine planted near the road. Troops from the African Union transition in Somalia had been conducting their daily patrols when the attack occurred. No group has yet claimed responsibility for the attack, but Al-Qaeda affiliated terrorist group Al-Shabaab has claimed responsibility for recent attacks in the Horn of Africa country. Okay, so those are some of the stories making the rounds there as well. It is All Starr Radio UK, and it's your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Kenya's President Ruto meets with Kagame in Kigali and discussing regional security, and then Raila Odinga calls for talks to involve parties outside parliament. So let's bring the Raila one before we go to the Ruto's visit. Now, Raila Odinga has called for parties outside parliament to be involved in talks on electoral reform and the highest cost of living. The Kenyan opposition leader is at odds with President William Ruto's plan for negotiations to be held only within parliament. On Tuesday, Odinga warned of fresh protests if the government did not take demands of the opposition seriously. He had earlier agreed Sunday to talks proposed by Ruto after the president asked him to hold protests over rising cost of living and claims of fraud in last August presidential election. For 2 weeks, thousands took part in the 3 opposition marches, causing some unrest and chaos across the Eastern African country, all of which turned violent. The protests left 1 police officer and 4 protesters dead. Now, businesses in the capital, Nairobi, were affected, and some looting took place during the demonstration. Other businesses were forced to close twice last week, as some more private businesses and places of worship were burnt down. The rising cost of living is also among the issues the opposition want government to address. Now, the rising cost of living is something that is going on across the globe. So, do you think it's fair to put it at the doorsteps of Ruto? How long has Ruto been in power? Just for 6 months. So, has he actually, will you blame him for whatever is happening? Before the Ukraine war started, he wasn't there, and the prices of fuel going skyrocketing. he inherited all those things. So what about that? But President William Ruto on Monday had asked senior lawmakers from his coalition to give top priority to the opposition's grievances. Now, during a visit to Kigali on Tuesday, the Kenyan president reiterated his position for the talks to be held within parliament in a bipartisan manner, and that if the offer made, and that is the offer made to the opposition. But Odinga wants talks similar to those that ended post-election violence in 2008 and ushered in a national unity government. To this end, the coalition proposes a team drawn from its ranks both in parliament and outside parliament, he said Tuesday on his news conference. Now, what do you think is the way forward for them? This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's take a break, and I will bring you back to what is happening in Ghana as well before we move on to other parts of the world. So stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Dr. Donald Palmer and I'm an immunologist. COVID-19 is still with us and making people ill every day, but it's not too late for all adults to book their first or second NHS COVID-19 vaccination. To get these vaccinations while they are still available and protect yourself and those around you, visit nhs.uk/COVID vaccination or call 119.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email and phone number. That's it, you're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamp Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
I would like to introduce a very talented member of this band, ladies and gentlemen. Please give it up for a good friend of mine, a righteous person.
All around the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up one more time for Mitchell Broodings.
All around the world.
Hello, Denal.
Well, listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London, 11:33 the time, the morning show, the program. I am Archie, trying to bring you some music, a cover version of Bob Marley's tune, So Much Trouble in the World.
Says it all.
But whilst we line that up, I know it is a Wednesday edition of the morning show, so that I say it all the time that we are limited with time there.
There is so much trouble in the world.
Well, there seems to be so much trouble in the world. But Starr Radio UK will try our best to bring you all the details of what is happening there. Let's put on music for a bit and let's continue with our chat this morning. So now moving on straight to what is happening in Ghana as well. Now, the Right to Information Bill has been passed, but we'll try to see whether some news network calling for some information will be granted them, especially now that they've made it public. I don't know how the Attorney General is going to react to it. But Right Information requests to the Attorney General seeking information on the status of investigation of Emmanuel Essien, a fisheries observer who went missing on June 24, 2019. Emmanuel Essien, 28, was on board the Chinese trawler Jinhao 608 when he captured video of the crew engaging in cycle, the illegal transfer of fish from a trawler to a large canoe. Now, 2 weeks later, on July 5, 2019, Mr. Essien went missing while working on the Menzing 15 vessel. Now, before getting aboard the Menzing 15 vessel, he wrote a statement to the police to investigate the crew on the Jinhao 608 vessel for engaging in illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing practice. Now, Essien's family, including a young daughter and son, are struggling to make sense of his disappearance. The family has on numerous occasions been calling on government to help them find their relative. Now, after 3 years, the Marine Police Division of the Ghana Police Service has no information on Essien's whereabouts or what led to his disappearance. Now, initial police reports said there were no signs of a crime. Essien's evidence could have meant $1 million fine for the vessel captain. In a media encounter, on Wednesday, October 27, 2021, Information Minister Kojo Opoyin-Nkrumah indicated that the police have finally concluded a probe into the matter and some new suspects have emerged. In a quote, they said, "I wrote a letter under my signature to the IGP and they have responded. The Tema police have completed their investigation and they have sent a duplicate case docket to the Attorney General for study and advice. The AG, upon study, directed that they need to do further interrogation of 3 persons, Isaac Kujo Ziwonu, Ahiable, and Anthony Asiedu. They have done the further interrogation and have submitted their update to the Attorney General, and in about 3 weeks, the Attorney General will come out with its final advice on this docket," he said. Now, pursuant to the Right to Information Act, Joy News is requesting access to the information on the status of the case, the extent of the investigation, and the outcome of the investigation. So where is this man? Has he just vanished into thin air? Or they conspired to get rid of him? And they do CCC, tie some heavy stone or something and just chuck him down there. Is that what has happened? Wow. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. As I said, we'll be monitoring very, very closely to see if the Attorney General is going to release that information to them and how long it takes for them to do so. The Center for Democratic Development, that is CDD, Ghana, says the guarantor system for voter registration is the most abused and needs brainstorming to get it done properly. Now, this comes on the back of Parliament's rejection of the Electoral Commission seeking to make the Ghana card sole document for voter registration. Parliament last week rejected the public election registration of voters regulation 2023, directing the EC to present a new one with a guarantor system reinstated. In presenting the report to the Committee of the Whole on the draft CI on behalf of the Speaker, First Deputy Speaker Joseph Osei-Owusu urged Parliament to officially communicate to the EC the House's decision for favorable consideration before finalization and presentation of the new CI to Parliament for passage into law. Speaking on one news network as well, Paul Abramba called on the Electoral Commission to engage in consultation in order to have the best form of voter registration. We already have recommendation on this. In fact, the most abused system of all the registration qualifications to register. In fact, when you review the previous CODIO post-election report, that is where we want the Electoral Commission to look at. But apart from the guarantor system, what other system can we add before we wait for most Ghanaians to acquire NIA cards? Interesting. I don't know. We are all our enemies, you know. We want to do so. You can't use the birth certificate to do anything. So what is the essence of getting the birth certificate? Now, it's the same birth certificate that you can use to get an internationally recognized document that is your passport. So what is all that about? Well, they're saying that the guarantor system, because somebody brings someone, I don't know whether the people that they bring, well, they are Ghanaians, but maybe their age, is that what they are talking about there? But if the person has got a birth certificate that's saying that I as old as I am now, I am 20, can you doubt it? I have to go and do DNA and all that bone test thing to tell me exactly how old, carbon thing, yeah, they call it carbon, something, how old I am. But it's not coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let me bring you one final story from Ghana and then we'll move on from there. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, the governing New Patriotic Party has cautioned the largest opposition party, the National Democratic Congress, to stop being dishonest in its assessment of economic situation in the country currently. Now, who is saying that people are maybe saying, oh, this is what is up? People are crying. It's not individuals saying that, oh, are you crying? Or let me say that one is crying. No, people are actually crying. And as I said earlier on during the first part of the program, I was saying that if I tell you the number of calls are receiving it or text messages are receiving a day, I tell you, get to a point, I don't want to pick any of my calls because it's all we need help. That's all that we are hearing all this while. But according to the NPP, though it is very well managed, the Ghanaian economy, though it has very well managed the Ghanaian economy and made some considerable gains, its political rival, the NDC, has consistently employed these honest tactics to bury the gains. What gains? Are Ghanaians better off? What, almost, God, it's now 7 years so far, with the NPP at the helm of affairs? If earlier on they were better off and now they don't see anything, is it the NDC saying it? I don't belong to the NDC. I don't belong to the NPP. I'm just here in the UK and I belong to what? Which party do I belong to? The Green Party. But the national chairman of the NPP, Stephen Intim, addressing a press conference in Accra on Tuesday, advised the NDC to quit using deceit in its bid to win power. Is it short of words? They didn't know what exactly he's talking about there. People are struggling. People are desperate. And he said, don't use that one. Okay, we'll see. What would they want them to use? That, look, the NPP has done very, very well and everything is ticking along nicely. Is that it? Wow. It is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's look at some of the other stories making rounds in other parts of the world as well. Rupert Murdoch's engagement has been called off. That's what the report is saying. This man is old. Okay, media tycoon Rupert Murdoch and ex-police chaplain and Leslie Smith have abruptly called off their engagement weeks after announcing it. Report says the Vanity Fair quotes a source close to Mr. Murdoch, 92, as saying he had become uncomfortable with what were described as outspoken evangelical views of Miss Smith, who is 66. Now, Mr. Murdoch, who split with his fourth wife, Jerry Hall, in 2022, is yet to comment, my apologies, but his engagement with Miss Smith was announced only last month. The two met in September at an event at his vineyard in California. So what has... Okay, let me rest my case. Love. This is love, man. This is love. This is love, isn't it? All right. Love at first sight. Oh, is it money? Yeah. Or influence. Okay. Now, in other parts of the world as well, before we go back to the US, a Taliban order has barred Afghan women from working for the United Nations, the organization has said. The UN said the Taliban had informed them verbally, but there had not been yet a written communication of the move. The UN has told its Afghan staff, men and women, not to report to work for 48 hours until it has a bit of clarity on the matter in its meeting with the Taliban. There has been an increasing clampdown on women's freedom since the Taliban seized power in Afghanistan in 2021. This is the latest in a disturbing trend undermining the ability of aid organizations to reach those most in need, a UN spokesman said, adding that it cannot operate and deliver life-saving assistance without female staff. The UN has called the Taliban order unacceptable and frankly unconceivable. But do they give a hoot about what you think? Well. It is all Starr Radio UK. It's your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay. Now, after his arrest and being charged, now Donald Trump made his way to his Mar-a-Lago estate and then gave a press statement or a news conference, whichever is appropriate. The U.S. is going to hell, Donald Trump has said in a defiant address after pleading not guilty to falsifying business records to hide damaging information ahead of the 2016 elections. Now, the story says the former president was charged with 34 counts in a Manhattan court in New York on Tuesday. Now, this relates to a hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels, who says they had an adulterous affair. Mr. Trump is the first U.S. president in history to face a criminal trial. Now, the only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it, the 76-year-old told supporters gathered at his Mar-a-Lago home in Florida after he appeared in court. He said the fake case was simply part of Democratic conspiracy to interfere with next year's presidential election in which he is running. Earlier, he sat stony-faced and silent for the nearly hour-long proceedings before Judge John McCann, speaking out loud only in the response to the judge's question and to enter his plea of not guilty. Mr. Trump said nothing to reporters as he left court. Now, the case against the former president hinges on a hush money payment of $130,000 US dollars or 104,000 pounds made before the 2016 presidential election. While such a payment is not illegal, spending money to help a presidential campaign but not disclosing it violates federal campaign finance laws. The former lawyer Michael Cohen, who turned against his former boss, has said he made a payment at Mr. Trump's direction. Well, I bet he's going to do everything in his power to debunk that statement that it was just a payment that I made for him for his services as a lawyer. So if he had used some to go and maybe quash or hash someone, then it's got nothing to do with me. But well, it is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, so we'll be following the story, but I don't think any case will be the case will be going to court court proceedings pretty soon. It's going to be sometime next year, but at that time they'll be running for the campaign for the election. So how is it all going to be panning out for him? More going to be coming your way. Now, Israel police have clashed with Palestinian worshippers at the Al-Aqsa Mosque in occupied East Jerusalem. Now, police said 350 people were arrested in a pre-dawn raid after what they had called agitators with fireworks, sticks and stones shot themselves inside. Now, Palestinians said stun grenades and rubber bullets were used to clear out the group and that 14 people were hurt. Militants in the Gaza Strip later fired 9 rockets at Israel and its military carried out airstrikes in response. The latest violence comes just ahead of an overlap between Islamic holiday month of Ramadan and the Jewish Passover holiday as well. But it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, and it is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now let's come to the UK and look at the story making the round. Okay, President Biden will be visiting Belfast on the 11th of April before going to Dublin the next day. So that is some information that has come through. President Biden has confirmed visit to Belfast next week. Now, Sturgeon's husband arrested is a story. Nicola Sturgeon's husband, Peter Morrell, has been arrested in the S&P Finance investigation thing that is going on. Peter Morrell, 58, is being questioned after being taken into police custody on Wednesday morning. Now, Police Scotland said officers were carrying out searches at a number of addresses as part of the investigation. Mr. Morrell resigned as the party's chief executive last month as a post he had held since 1999. He had been married to Miss Sturgeon since 2010. Oh, I see. Now, Miss Sturgeon stood down as First Minister last month and was last week succeeded by Hamza Yusuf. Now, there is currently police activity at the couple's home in Glasgow and at SNP headquarters in Edinburgh as well. There are 10 in uniform officers stationed outside the former First Minister's home, alongside one police vehicle and an incident tent in the front garden. Now, the curtains and blinds remained drawn, and there was no signs of anyone in the property. Meanwhile, 2 police officers were posted outside SNP headquarters, and there were other officers inside. At least 6 marked police vehicles were parked outside the building. Now, whatever is going on, we hope that the truth comes out. I mean, we know definitely that will come out when it comes to this part of the world. But how is that going to affect the image of Nicola Sturgeon? Well, she's going to say that I've left and her legacy. Well, so a lot more going to be coming your way as the days and the weeks unfold. But wherever you are, stay tuned. Don't go away. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let me bring you one final story. Judge says parents and children should receive infected blood payments. Okay. The parents and children of victims of the contaminated blood scandal should receive government compensation, a judge has said. The chairman of the Infected Blood Public Inquiry, Sir Brian Langstaff, said it was time to recognize deaths which have so far gone unrecognizable. Now, more than 3,000 people died after contracting HIV or hepatitis C via NHS treatment in the 1970s and 80s. The government must now respond to the recommendations It had previously agreed to pay 100,000 interim compensation to around 4,000 victims and bereaved families or widows. Bereaved widows, my apologies. Sir Brian said a final compensation framework should be set up by the end of the year for that group. It will clearly take political will to act quickly, but the circumstances here warrant it, he said. Now, giving evidence in 2021, then Health Secretary Matt Hancock said, of course, compensation would be paid to victims and their families if the public inquiry formally called for it. So now that the family inquiry has called for it, the judge calling for that, are they going to hearken to it? It is all coming your way from Starr Radio, okay? It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And this is where I bring the program to a close for today. I'll be seeing you tomorrow, God willing. And as I did announce earlier on, now this evening, there's not going to be Niger Voices. Yeah? Okay. So you stay blessed and enjoy yourself. Bye-bye for now.
$10 million